All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will go ahead and get started. I did thankfully remember to hit record. So we are recording this. So if you do have to leave before we finish, just know that it will be on our newsletter that we send out each Friday. So you can watch it back, or if you just love listening to Mr. Owens, Ms. Daniel, and I, you can watch it back whenever you want. So it will be there on tomorrow's newsletter. So today we have a topic that is very important to us, and we feel like each year parents do have questions related to both safety of your students while they're here on our campus. And then also there are questions about discipline, especially for sixth grade parents or new parents to Mason Creek. So I am actually going to turn over most of the presentation to Mr. Owens and to Miss Daniel. There are two amazing assistant principals here, and I always forget to introduce myself. I'm Tiffany Weaver, and hopefully you know me by now, but I am the principal at Mason Creek. So Mr. Owens and Miss Daniel do a great job, and they spend a lot of their day walking the building, ensuring that safety is the top of our priority list each and every day. And then they also handle a lot of the discipline, day-to-day discipline occurrences that happen in classrooms and in and out of hallways, cafeteria, and all of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Owens. He's going to get us started with talking about safety. So Mr. Owens.
Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Mr. Owens, and we'll talk a little bit more about my jobs as we get on through the presentation. But today we call this Safety and Discipline 101. Our agenda for today, we will be going over a safety plan overview. We will talk to you guys about our drills and procedures, our camera systems, our school-wide discipline plan. Some of you might have heard of nuisances and citations, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more today. We're going to talk about our lockers, our dress code, and safety in regards of how we do transportation. That's for car riders and buses. So as far as safety, here at Mason Creek Middle School, we believe that safety and discipline is more than anything that we can teach them. Because obviously, if a kid is not safe, then that's not something that we don't want. So safety is our number one priority. So one thing we have see something, say something. And we tell all of our students that if you see something, say something. Even if you hear something that may not be something that you know for a fact, if you see something, say something. Students can report discreetly because we know that some of them, I don't want to tell, I don't want anybody to know that I told, but there is a open door policy here at Mason Creek to where students can send emails, they can do a counselor referral, or they can stop by one of our offices to let us know of an incident that they may know about. One concern that parents always have concerns about is that they may say, hey, my kid is going to get bullied if the kids know. We don't tell other students, hey, little Johnny or little Susan told on you. So adult supervision is, we tell our administrators, our teachers to be anywhere that students are. This includes transitions in between classes. It can be lunch, breakfast. Again, that's anywhere students are located. And we ask them to be active and not just be there. Be there with your voices, be there with your eyes, so on and so forth. As far as our safety plan is very extensive. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I just want to give you a synopsis of what we do here to keep your kids safe. It is a living document, and it's created by the safety team. So not only myself, it is all the administrators, our teachers have input, our SRO, which is our school resource officer. They all have input in things that we see here at the school. Again, what I mean by living document, it is edited based on anything that we see that can be more efficient. Our staff is trained at the beginning of each year, and not only are they trained, they're reminded of the different policies and procedures that goes into ensuring that your students are safe. In each classroom, there's a safety folder to remind teachers as well as substitutes or anyone that comes into our building of what's supposed to happen during a certain drill. So for example, if we have a fire drill, which means we have those monthly. So if a substitute is in our building, the safety folder tells the substitute exactly what to do, where to go, um, the policies and procedures once they're outside, so on and so forth. As far as our drills and codes, we have codes that identify what's actually happening inside our building. I'm not going to go over those because obviously we don't want to tell all of our secrets, but we have codes that tell us everything that's going to happen. Our fire drills are monthly, and we vary the times so that no one knows, hey, when we're doing it. And also that kind of helps out with the different locations in our building. So our kids are not going to first period. We're going to do it in the first period every single day. So we may do it during lunchtime, the end of the day, so on and so forth. Severe weather, they allow us to substitute a fire drill with a severe weather drill during the months of November and February. That's when, say, for instance, there's a tornado warning and students have to duck and cover. We have silent evacuations. Well, the good thing about all of our evacuations, we want all of them to be silent. And the reason for that being is we want to be able to communicate with all our students and staff to make sure that everyone's safe. But those silent evacuations are for bombs, bomb threats, stuff like that. Fortunately, we haven't had any of those. As far as lockdown, that's our drills in which we may have an intruder or a person that is outside of our building, and we want to make sure our students are locked down safely inside of our classrooms. And the Fire Commission this year, they allow us to substitute that with some of our fire drills. So that kind of helps us out so that we're not taking away from instructional time. As far as our campus, we do have a closed campus. As you guys may know, that all of our exterior doors are locked, and there's no way that anyone can get in unless they come to the front office. We ask all of our teachers do not prop their doors, and this includes the interior and exterior doors as well. So again, the doors outside of the building, and once you get inside of the building, those doors should be shut and locked as well. And these doors are periodically checked by our administrators when we do our walkthroughs and our SRO. Again, SRO stands for School Resource Officer. We also make our students aware because, again, even though the doors are locked, if our students don't know that those doors should not be unlocked to anyone, that's not a good thing because the students will be able to let someone in. The funny thing I like about this is it's so ingrained in their heads. I might walk up to a door without my key and I'll knock, and the kids are looking at me like, no, I'm not going to let you in because you tell us not to let anyone inside the classroom. So it's kind of funny. But again, that's awesome that they understand that. Every personnel in our building has a badge, and our badges serve as a dual purpose. First off, it's an identification piece for anybody who's in our building to know, hey, who that person is. And if a person we do have county office personnel here that don't see our kids daily. So those badges do help to let people know that, hey, this person is supposed to be in our building. The second purpose for that is it is an alert system. It alerts myself, the other administrators, the SRO, and sometimes it can notify the police. Again, I'm not going to go to too much detail about that. The badges must be visible, and every person in our building, they know that if a person is in our school without a badge, they are able to question that person. All right, closed campus continued. Our staff is on duty from the time your kids arrive to the times that they are dismissed at school, dismissed from school. So we have a morning shift for car riders and bus riders, and then we also have an evening shift for dismissal for the buses and cars as well. And we'll talk about car rider dismissal and safety a little later. All visitors, as I said earlier, they will use our primary entrance, which is the front office. Again, do not attempt to go to any other doors except for the front entrance. Once you get to the front door, there's a doorbell that you will ring, and that doorbell has a camera and it has a microphone that allows you to communicate with our front office personnel, and they will be able to ask you the rationale for you coming to the school and let you in if it's appropriate for you to be here. Again, every teacher has a badge, and those badges allow those teachers to get in the building. Students don't have those badges, so once they're inside, a teacher has to let them transition from one building to the next. Say, for instance, they're in PE and they have to transition to the internal building. What they'll do is we have teachers to actually be there to let them in. When our visitors come to school, we have a visitor management system that is Raptor. And once you get in, you will show the front office personnel your identification. You'll log into the Raptor system, take a picture, and that does a quick background check to ensure that you are a person that could come into inside of a school building. Our staff is trained to question visitors. So again, when you come to the front office, they're asking you, hey, who's your student? What's the rationale for you coming in? So please do not be offended if they ask you for your identification. And then once you clear all of those protocols, what will happen is they will give you a visitor pass so that everyone knows that you're supposed to be here.
And just to clarify one thing about the Raptor system, that's not if you're coming to check in or check out a student. That's if you're actually going outside of the front lobby for a meeting, or if you're going to the cafeteria to have lunch with your child. That's if you're leaving the front office, because once you get into the building, into the front lobby, you can't go anywhere else. Everything is locked still. So that's kind of a double measure that even if you're able to make up a name of somebody you're checking out or a reason why you're coming in the front office, you still can't get into the building where students are unless you show that identification and scan into our visitor management system. So I just want to clarify, it's not if you're just coming to drop something off for your child, or if you're checking them out. Only the Raptor system is used if you're leaving the front office and going into our building to be around students.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver, for the clarification. My apologies. All right, so as far as our cameras, our parents are always intrigued about our cameras and our camera systems. We have cameras located throughout the entire building. That's internal and external. They're in our stairways. The good thing about them, they record everything. And they're basically, so if there's movement, it kind of alerts us to the movement, so we can kind of sift through that video footage a lot faster, so it's not recording dead time. It does not have audio. I apologize. I said that it says record video, no audio. I have that background on the slide. Please, my apologies. The fortunate thing is our buses have video and audio, so they will be able to hear the students as they are on the buses. They can hear what they say, what they do, so on and so forth.
I will add here, we're getting a new camera system sometime this school year, hopefully in the next month or two, and it is supposed to record audio. So that will be coming out soon. So if you do ever have a question, that's one thing we do like to go to if there's conflicting stories or we're not quite sure exactly what happened. We always want to be able to go to those cameras and see if we can see it, and hopefully eventually be able to hear it as well.
Hey, and Dr. Weaver, I'd like to tag you in to talk a little bit about the cameras that are located inside the classrooms.
Sure. So we also, I think about a year and a half ago, we were able to get these Cloud 12, that's what they're called, cameras in our classrooms. And so many times, things in the past have happened in classrooms, and parents are like, well, are there not cameras? Well, we do have cameras now. However, they're really supposed to be, the intent behind them is instructional, not for discipline. So in professional development, we have teachers record themselves and write reflections on their lessons, or they share their lesson with another teacher who's maybe a new teacher or struggling teacher. And so the primary use of them is instructional. However, there is the added benefit that, like, if a teacher has a substitute, they can record their classes. And if there's a question about behavior or something that happens while the teacher's absent, they can go back and record it. Unlike the cameras in the hallways where the administrators, the SRO, we have access at any time, the cameras in the classrooms, the teachers would have to share that video with the administrators. So it's not like a Big Brother where Mr. Owens or Miss Daniel and myself, we can log in and watch a teacher from a camera. We don't have access to do that unless the teacher shares that with us. And so most of our teachers, we've asked them to set up so it automatically records every day. And so if they have that and something does happen, then we definitely ask them to share the video and allow us to look at it. Parents do ask, like, can I see the video? If we're able, and what I try to do is record just your child with like my cell phone, because we can't show you video of other students. And so you may have questions about, well, I want to see the video myself, and we can absolutely try to, as long as we're not showing you other children. So if it's just your child and we're able to zoom in and show you that, we absolutely will. But just know that's not something that the administrators have free access to. So I see there's a question, so I definitely want to stop here because that's something that comes up a lot. And now that we have them, more and more questions have occurred from them. So Ms. Johnson.
Yes, so I have a question, and thank you very much for going over this. As it relates to any concerns that a parent may have relating to an incident involving a teacher, if that is a situation where a parent has a question about, and only the teacher has the ability to share that recording, what's done in that instance, especially if they have the option to record or not to record?
Well, most of the time, I mean, when there are personnel concerns, the first things we do are get statements with any investigation, and we'll talk about our school-wide discipline plan in regards to investigations in a little bit. When it becomes a personnel concern, we get statements of what happened. We, have started adding that in since we do have these cameras. Do you record your videos? Because not only does it allow parents to seek more information, but it also should be able to provide protection for our teachers. So if a student says, this occurred, we're able to pull the video and see exactly what happened. So vice versa, it is a benefit for everyone to just have them record it. But again, I don't have access to say you have to, and you have to share it with me. That's not the intent behind the cameras. But I will say, as far as I know, every situation that we have asked, there has been, most teachers have automatically set up the recordings. Mr. Owens and Ms. Daniel, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe most teachers do record things that are happening in their class. So if you do have a concern about a teacher or something that happened, I would definitely, if you don't feel comfortable asking the teacher about it, to reach out to Mr. Owens, Ms. Daniel, or myself, and we can absolutely get that information and try to get, the video and see if we have it. Did that answer your question, Ms. Johnson?
Partially, but thank you for your response.
Yeah, it's hard because it's not something that we can force the teachers to do. That wasn't the intent behind the purchase. And so, it would be nice if it was similar to the hallway, but then I also know as myself, as when I was in the classroom, it would be hard to feel like people were watching everything I was doing at all times. Even though we're in and out of their classrooms, that would just kind of have like an eerie feel of Big Brother's watching me and who has access. So when the district bought it, they set it up that way that it didn't feel like a gotcha for teachers, that it was more for them instructionally to benefit their practice. So, but again, they are new, and that may change and evolve. And like I said, we're getting those new cameras in the hallway, so that may change the policies behind the cameras in our building. But thank you for the question. And if you have questions along the way, you can either type them in the chat. Ms. Daniel and I are kind of monitoring, or you can definitely hit the raise hand and we'll answer your questions as you have them. Mr. Owens?
All right, thank you. And I'm going to move on to the next slide. Oh, so that's Ms. Daniel. So Ms. Daniel is going to talk a little bit more about our school-wide discipline plan.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. You'll push the slide for me, I hope. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mrs. Daniel, and I am going to talk about discipline. Mason Creek Middle School has 2 assistant principals, myself, and I am over 6th grade connections and transportation as it relates to buses. Mr. Owens is over 7th grade, 8th grade, and car riders as it relates to transportation for students there. I have the email addresses for both of us in this slide, but you guys can call the school if you need to find out what our email addresses are, as well as our phone numbers. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call us at any time, email us at any time, and we will try in a timely manner to get back to you to answer any questions that we can in a timely manner for you. So we are with a pro-action reaction. Pro-action for us, we set high expectations as it relates to our students. We practice active supervision, being consistent. We talked about earlier about where we have teachers all over the building, all throughout the day. Anytime students are transitioning, going to the restroom, going to lunch, there are teachers and administrators. We are everywhere. In the cafeteria, all 3 of the administrators are there. Just wanted to let you guys know that as we talk about supervision in our building. Reaction as it relates to our discipline plan. A lot of parents call and they ask because they're not aware of what it looks like in our school. We have students, if they get 3 nuisances, and nuisances will be explained a little later what it looks like, they get a citation. 4 citations equal a referral, which is a discipline referral that is sent to us in our Infinite Campus system, where phone calls are made to the parents by the teacher first. And then we, as the administrators, make the phone call to explain what the discipline will look like depending on the 4th citation. Most of the times it's a 1 day of in-school suspension. All citations, any parent should get a contact either by email or phone as it relates to your student get a citation. And all discipline contacts are in our contact log. So if you call or if something happens, if a teacher calls you, an administrator calls you, even the front office clerks, they put a note in that they have reached a contact person at home, or if they attempted to try to contact you. So nuisance, the documentation for first nuisance, the student's name is recorded by the teacher, and that teacher is free to use any system that he or she would like. It could be a clipboard, a whiteboard, class dojo, etc., a piece of paper. However, the teacher decides that he or she is going to monitor the nuisances, that's what they do. The second nuisance, the name receives a check mark. And again, however the teacher is monitoring it. And the third nuisance is behavior, which is the citation that we talked about. We have a citation log that has all of our students in the building listed for grades 6, 7, and 8, where our teachers are able to go in and see how many citations the student has, or to add in as the student gets an additional citation. The behaviors that are unacceptable are not limited to these, but just a few that we'll mention here. Tardy to class. There's really no reason for any of our students to be tardy. Our students are on block, so they're all in the same area. They don't have to go any place except to maybe a classroom down from their other class where they're changing. Unprepared for class. Of course, that means not having any writing instruments, paper, or whatever it is that's needed to be successful in the classroom. Out of seat without permission. Talking without permission. Disrespect to other students. And we know what that looks like: being mean, saying disrespectful things, cursing, unintentional cursing, being inappropriate in the hallway, violating classroom procedures. All of the teachers in the beginning of the school year have talked about, discussed, and have gone over what the classroom expectations are. So the students are very well aware what the teachers and what we expect in the classroom. Citations. So citations, where we talked a couple of minutes ago, the documentation is again in a Google document that we have here at the school. Contact home. Any parent should have had information before they hear from an administrator as it relates to their child receiving a citation. And it's put in the contact log, including the number of the citation. And that is how we are made aware, because the teachers will put first citation, second citation, third citation. And then, of course, the 4th citation lets us know that it is time for the student to receive in-school suspension. Referrals without any contact in the contact log will be deleted. to explain what that means for you. If your student has received a fourth citation or third citation or fifth citation, and there has been no contact made to you as the parent, we will delete that because that student has not received his or her fair discipline procedure. So we'll delete it, and it will start from whatever number the parent has been contacted.
And I just want to add in here, because I think you're about to move on past citations, that every 9 weeks, citations start over. I think it's important in middle school to still understand that they're learning, they're maturing, and a lot of the middle school discipline issues we have are related to maturity and growth. And so every 9 weeks, citations start over. So they may have, a difficult first 9 weeks, especially in 6th grade. They're learning, what middle school looks like. But now the second 9 weeks just began on Monday. Everyone has a clean slate, starts over, and our teachers treat them the same. Like, we are starting over fresh. It's time to make better decisions. And so I think that's an important piece to just say that, that it's okay to get a citation every once in a while, but it's about learning from that citation. And that's why we don't start with referrals. We don't start with ISS. We have multiple steps so that we are trying to teach our students the correct behaviors and set that high expectation. I think we had a question. I have a question about students who have to travel far for their electives to their core, like music to math. So each grade level, doesn't matter the grade level, they get 4 minutes. And if you've been in our building, 4 minutes is generous. And yes, they are crowded depending on the grade level, but we have very specific ways. So we actually have named our stairways in our building, but each grade and each team, they have specific stairs that they use. We also have, kind of like you're driving, we walk on the right side to ensure that traffic is a continuous flow. I know 7th grade usually is the one that struggles the most getting up from connections, because they have connections first and second period, and then they come upstairs. Those teachers have given, I believe, 2 additional minutes, Mr. Owens, Ms. Daniel, because they're putting their items in their locker at that time. So they have added some time between 3rd and 4th period in 7th grade specifically. But the other grade levels, they get to put their stuff in their lockers first thing in the morning. So that's, we definitely look, and we have traveled, if a student says, I can't get to this class on time, then we travel with them to try to see, like, is it congested? We have a lot more 6th graders this year than we have in the past. So Miss Daniel, Mr. Owens, and I would spread out on the 6th grade hall, see why can't they get to connections on time? Is it because they don't have enough time at their lockers and then go into connections? But honestly, they were wanting to hug their teachers and tell them bye. And it was a lot of socializing. So we definitely have watched and observed and attempted to ensure that it's not about congestion or not enough time. But 4 minutes should allow any student to get. So if there's a specific track that you feel might be concerning, let us know, and we can look to see what may be the issue, because we definitely want the stairwells to be a continuous flow of movement, because we do have a lot of students. We have usually around 880 students here. We're the 2nd largest, and so it's a larger middle school, so that is important to us. So if there's a specific concern between certain classes, let us know and we can definitely look at it. Sorry, Ms. Daniel, just wanted to jump in.
That's okay. Thank you, Dr. Weaver. I also want to mention that if you look at how many opportunities a student has before he or she gets an actual discipline referral where the student has in-school suspension, there are quite a few. So the students have ample opportunities to correct behavior, to make good decisions before the behavior even comes to an administrator where we have to put discipline on the student. Thank you, Mr. Owens. Okay, so the citations, again, some of these are just a few of them that we're mentioning: classroom outbursts, intentional cursing, throwing small items, horseplay. Horseplay is something that we are very serious about here at Mason Creek Middle School. It is something that we immediately write a student up, because horseplay often turns into something more serious. And that includes when the students are joning each other, they're talking about each other back and forth, and then one student can't handle it, so he gets upset about it. And it just turns into something that becomes difficult for us to manage here. So we're very serious about horseplay. Any kind of actions, necessity being sent out of the classroom where the teacher has to continue to remind the student. Misuse of equipment, of course, that includes our technology, which are our Chromebooks here, or any other technology, even in the computer lab. Cell phone use and earbuds. Students are allowed to have their cell phones at different times in the building, but earbuds are not to be in the hallway at all. No student should have an earbud in his or her ear as they are transitioning through our school. Unauthorized or inappropriate use of cell phone, electronic devices, computers, incorrect usage of classroom equipment, inappropriate dress, and we'll talk about dress code a little bit, and lying. I know lying is there, but it's important to us because a lot of times when we're doing investigations, it's important for us to know where the truth is. And I'll just go into investigations while we're here. What happens when we are investigating, let's say a student says that another student pushed or hit him or cursed, what they will oftentimes tell the teacher, who in turn will contact us to let us know. And this depends on if it's a serious infraction. We'll call the student into our office and we'll get a statement. And this is from the victim up until the person who is being accused of whatever happened. And we talk to the students, we get their statements, we investigate. We do a full investigation here to determine whether or not a student has been a victim and what has happened. And this is based on our statements, and we hold on to them in order to make sure that we have the information that has been told to us. So that's how our investigations happen here at the school.
So before we move on, I'd like to elaborate on the horseplay in the classroom or hallway. When it's a citation, it is non-touching horseplay more so than the actual physical contact. So I just want to make sure I clarify that before moving on.
Thank you. Dress code. We have a lot of issues with dress code. It is in our handbook, the student handbook. Jeans with holes below students' fingertips. So we are not saying to the students that they cannot wear distressed jeans or jeans that have holes in them, but they have to be beyond or below the student's fingertips. So in the morning when the child, boy or girl, is leaving, they are to dress and look to see whether or not the holes are below or past their fingertips. If they are above, they are going to have what we call a dress code, where once someone in the building, anybody, any teacher in the building sees them, and they will send them to an administrator. We do have a clothing closet here. So students who have been received a dress code have an opportunity to go to our clothing closet where they can get something that is more appropriate. We have new items there. I know we have a lot of parents who are concerned about some of our items that may be used, but we have new items here. We have items that we are washed and they're clean. And the same thing applies for students and young ladies who have skirts, or even boys who have shorts. It's fingertips. We are trying to avoid having to look at the holes at the top where the thigh is, and below the fingertip is more appropriate for us. And the students will be dress coded if they come to school and they're not following the school-wide dress code. What is inappropriate, no student is allowed to walk around the school with a hoodie on or a hat. Once we see it, I am the administrator over buses, so I see them when they're getting off a bus, and I dress code as they're getting off the buses. Most of the young men and gentlemen absolutely take their hoods off as soon as they enter the building. So it's not really a major problem here. Students can not walk in the halls with earbuds, and we did talk about that before. And again, no holes in jeans above the student's fingertips. Lockers. We have lockers here. Students are allowed and should have had their lockers very early on in school. They're near most of the core classes, so they don't have to travel too far to their locker. Most of the times, again, as Dr. Weaver mentioned earlier, certain grade levels are allowed to put their items in the morning. Seventh grade, not so much. Backpacks must be stored inside the locker and locked by combination, and there are no sharing lockers. Each student should have his or her own locker and not sharing with another classmate. Bus safety and car riders. I'm going to talk about the bus safety, and Mr. Owens will talk about car riders. Students who ride the Douglas County School System transportation, the student must remain seated at all times while the bus is en route. They must have only one earbud in their ear when the bus is in motion, not both. This is for the purpose of the student to be able to hear if the driver needs to give them important information. They must wait until the driver is parked. And what that means is some students at the bus stops, they try to cross the street or they see the bus coming. The bus drivers are asking that the students wait until the bus is parked and they give them direction as to when to cross the street to go over to get on the bus. Students must not get off at a stop that is not assigned to their route. Every student has a specific route, and if a student is going to ride with a different person, that information has to come from our front office clerk, who will give the student a pink slip that notifies the bus driver that this student is allowed to get on this particular bus because they have permission from the parent who has emailed our front office clerks to get a pink slip for them to get on. If a student does not have a pink slip, that child is not going to be allowed on that bus. They must not yell, throw items on the bus, fight on the bus. We do have drills twice a year in the fall, in the spring for our buses so that the students understand if there's an issue, if there's a safety concern, and if we need to evacuate the bus. We do have drills here at the school so the students know what to do in the event that there is an emergency on their bus. Fighting is very serious. Students will be suspended off of the bus if there's a fight or any other safety issue that is causing the driver an issue to travel students back and forth safely. I see some hands up.
And I can finish this because I think the next slide is questions. So what we can do is I can finish this and there's a question in the queue as well as someone with the hand raised. So I'll finish this and then you guys just hang on to your questions and then we'll make sure we get those answered at the end, okay? All right, so in regards to students who are dropped off and picked up, most of my things are obviously about safety in regards to pick up and drop off. So in the morning and in the afternoon, students must be dropped off and picked up in the front of the school through the car rider line. Obviously, that is for safety reasons because sometimes we have parents that try to get their kids to walk down to the bottom of the hill where we have no adult supervision. Again, we don't know what's happening down there or who's down there, so on and so forth. So we want to make sure all of our kids are in front of watchful eyes that can kind of protect them and ensure that there's nothing happening outside of what we're supposed to happen as far as the drop off and pick up. Parents should not park in the parking lot and walk their children to the door unless they're meeting with the staff. So that's in the morning if you are dropping off a kid, and sometimes people like to, hey, that line is kind of long, so let me try to go around and go through the parking lot and send my kid across. The unfortunate thing is that's not the appropriate way to do it, and it's against safety protocols as well, because there's a lot of traffic going on at that time. And we want to make sure we're focusing on moving the cars and getting the kids on the sidewalk more so than having kids travel across a busy road. And parents should not walk to get their children's. And this is for the PM. Again, some parents try to go into the parking lot and then get out of their vehicles. And the first thing, that is not something that we would like to occur. Because again, we don't know your intentions, and we have about 200 200, 300 students outside awaiting their rides. And when a parent gets out of their vehicle and walks up, again, that takes our eyes off the task at hand in regards to moving the traffic and ensuring supervision for the students. And it puts our eyes on something else in regards to a parent coming up to approach students. So again, just make sure you stay in your vehicles at that time. And I'm going to move on to the question section, and we'll begin to answer those questions. All right, so go ahead.
I was just going to read, why are parents being notified about citations after citations have been given out? It just makes sense to me that citations will be given out after this meeting. Ms. Shelley? To answer that question, the teachers usually, when they give the citation, they will call or send an email as it relates to why the student received the citation. I'm not sure what time of day. Some teachers may do it after the citation has been given out at the end of the school day, and some may send an email at that time, but parents should be notified that a student has received the citation.
So to kind of clarify about that, maybe I'm getting to the what she's trying to say. Teachers give the citation, and the citation is just a warning prior to them getting a consequence for an administrator. So as far as the first citation, the parent will be getting called home after the fact that the citation has occurred. So that's just to to notify the parent that, hey, I've given your child a citation for a behavior that they exhibited in class. And I hope that answered your question.
Anyone else have any questions? Or maybe you thought, I'm sure they're going to talk about this, and then maybe we did not. We tried to cover questions that we have received most frequently in the last couple years from parents. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, my question is, if there's ever a time in which there's a threat received against the school, at what point in time do you notify parents?
Well, thankfully, we have not received any threats in the last couple of years, but this is my 6th year, and we definitely have in that time period received things that have occurred on social media, or maybe a statement made by a student here at school. And so it is always my hope to be very transparent with parents and get that information to you guys as soon as possible. So Remind has been very helpful when I need to send something very quick to a certain group of parents, a grade level. But I will always send it if it is affecting your student, their concern of their safety, your concerns of their safety, you will absolutely be notified. So any kind of crisis threat that involves the whole school. In the past, I can remember one time we had something happen in a 7th grade classroom, and so I communicated that with 7th grade parents. It's not going to always relate to all parents, but we absolutely, if it ever would affect you and your student, we always share that information. But thankfully, we have been blessed that we have not had any in the last couple years. But I hope that you guys know that sometimes I'm probably too transparent, especially with my facial expressions. My staff tells me that frequently, but I always think it's important for you guys to know what's going on at all times. We haven't communicated drills in the past because a lot of times they are dependent, especially with fire drills, on the weather. We try to give a heads up to our teachers so they know when it is, but we really do try to do drills when students might not predict it. So like Mr. Owen said, we try to do different periods, different days of the week even. So they're not always expecting, okay, well, I'm going to have a drill first period, the first day or the first Wednesday of every month. Like we don't do it that way. So It's not something we normally communicate with parents about drills, but anything that would concern you, we hope to always communicate. So if you ever feel like, why didn't, Dr. Weaver, why didn't the teacher, why didn't somebody tell me something? I hope that you will share that concern so that we can correct it and address it for the future. Anybody else have any questions for us? And it may be something where if you have a specific question, you want to reach out to Mr. Owens, Ms. Daniel, or myself after. We definitely want to be able to ensure all of your questions are answered. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And so that was all of the information we wanted to cover today. I'm so happy that you guys joined us. It was a great, looks like a great response by you guys coming out. And again, it will be posted on